Hello, everyone, and welcome to ODTUD's All-Community Webinar, Tips and Suggestions from Experienced Apex Presenters, led by Jorge Rimblas, Francis Mignot, Jackie McElroy, Dimitri Gilis, Gemma Wood, and Karen Cannell. Today's presentation will be recorded and available for viewing on the ODTUD website. Please put your questions in the question box at any time during the presentation, and we'll try to answer them as they come in. Welcome, Apex panelists, and thank you for being here.
Hello.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
Hello. Thank you, Veronica. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. We're really excited to share what we know about reviewing and submitting abstracts, as well as presenting at conferences. But before we start, I wanted to give a little background as to why we are having this webinar. About a month ago, we had a Women in Apex webinar hosted by the wonderful Michelle Scamini. And during that conversation, we kind of talked about things that affect us as women while working in Apex. And something that kept coming up was that there are a lot of women that are hesitant or shy to get up in front of their peers and present what they know. Not only are they shy about presenting, but they're also maybe a little fearful of even submitting an abstract to a conference. And we all know if you're not submitting to the conference, you're never going to get selected. I also think that this goes well beyond just a woman's issue. This affects everyone. I think there are a lot of people that are just sitting on the sidelines, maybe wishing they had what it takes to present and not even submitting, or just they're afraid to speak and they just let the opportunity pass by. So I think with a little push, maybe these people will get out and try and submit and get in front of everyone and share what they know, because there's a lot of knowledge out there that needs to be shared and we can all benefit from it. So I hope that this can accomplish that today. The people that are here today are really special. They are some of the fan favorites in the Apex community. They're also my friends, so I feel really lucky to have them all here. I want to go around and introduce everyone. I am Jackie McElroy. I am the Director of Product and Client Services at United Codes. I am also, I've been speaking for maybe 3 years, and I have reviewed abstracts for 1 year officially and 2 years in the blind reviewing. And then I'm also the content chair for the Apex track at kscope this year. So I'm really excited to get a lot of new people in and see if we can get some fresh faces out in these conferences this coming year. So I want to go around and ask everyone to introduce themselves. Francis, how about we start with you?
Oh, first one. So my name is Francis Mignot. I'm Executive VP in charge of Innovation and Technologies at Insum. I've been an Oracle ACE since 2012, I think, and then I became an ACE director in 2017. And as I've been speaking for a long time now. I started with the Apex community quite a while ago, like in 2008, I think. And yeah, I was part also of the, I was content chair of the Apex track. I don't remember when, a couple of years ago, and then the selection team. So I'll be happy to share some tips and tricks today.
All right, Karen.
I'm Karen Cannell, TH Technology. I've been writing Apex apps since Apex began. I was fortunate to work with Oracle on a project when we had HTMLDB. I've been doing Oracle for more years than I want to put on a slide, over 20. And in terms of presenting, again, that's like, I think since 2007, 2008. But I've been, how I got involved in user groups was volunteering to review papers back when we had like real life papers and conference abstracts. And because I got involved with my user group and I got kind of sucked in, they said, where's your paper? You know, so And I love doing it. I learn and I get back from doing it. So lots of experience reviewing abstracts, writing abstracts, and presenting.
Awesome. Dimitri?
So my name is Dimitri Gilles. I'm from Belgium, and I run United Codes. And maybe you know me better from Apex Office Print. And I also I really love Apex, and I started to share my knowledge. Like in 2006, I learned everything that I learned, that I explored, I put on my blog. And in 2006, I also went to OGDoc for the first time. And I saw like many famous people there presenting what they knew, and I loved it. And then I said, man, I like the people there, they said, you should really try to share your knowledge too. So this is how I got involved. So the next year I presented. So, and I want to give a few tips and tricks there too. I've been on the review committee for a couple of years. And I think you all make a chance. Go ahead, Jorgen.
Oh, sorry.
My name is Jorge Rimblas. I work for DRW, and my first kscope was in 2012 actually, and that was the first time I was presenting at a big conference. And since then, I got hooked. So I started getting more involved and doing content review, leading the track, and helping other people prepare presentations or not prepare presentations, but prepare their abstracts and help them submit a better abstract. And yeah, I've also, like others, I've been working with Oracle for a long time and with Apex, but it wasn't until I started presenting that really became really interesting how to explain the things that you do. Right? You don't really know something well until you try to teach it, and then that's been a fun aspect about presenting. Yep.
Gemma?
Hi, I'm Gemma Wood. I'm the co-founder of Cavanti. We're a software as a service company that's built primarily in Oracle Apex. I've worked with Apex for about 9 or 10 years and with Oracle for about 25 years. I first presented, God, many moons ago in Seattle. It was very well received, and I can honestly say it was one of the worst experiences of my life. It was very well received, and I said, I'm never doing this again. Well, several years later, I was dragged into presenting again, and I was terrified. Again, it was very well received. I'd made it through it, and I said, okay, we'll do this every 10 years. But I've started to more and more online and in person, and I've been on the Oracle Apex abstract committee for the last 5 years. So hopefully can share you some tips of what we've seen over the years in terms of good and bad abstracts.
Perfect. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. I want to remind the audience that even though we're all from the Apex community, what we're about to tell you probably applies to everyone, not just the Apex community. So keep that in mind. Don't tune out just because we're all Apex people. And also, if you have questions while we're going through things, please put them in the chat. We want to address them like while they're relevant. So please do that. And now for the fun, I'm going to start you guys out with a really easy question. What is an abstract and why is it important, and what is its purpose? Anyone?
I'll take the easy one. Well, what's an abstract? That's where you sell the idea of what are you going to present, and you first you have to convince a committee to select what you're going to present on, and you're going to convince them that you know what you're talking about and that you can educate someone on the topic. There.
Perfect.
I'll leave it at that.
It's also like when many people, they don't know what to present on. They say, oh, I want to present, but what are we going to present on? So this is where do you feel passionate about, or what is your interest, and what did you learn yourself, what did you find hard, and try to think like that, and then try to write something down, like this is like, if I had to teach somebody, this is how I would do it. And this is basically an abstract, the base of your presentation. You can even put like an outline in there. Jackie, I don't know if you already have to go into what should be in the abstract, but
Sure.
like, this is what I like. If you just say like, I want to present on X, then that doesn't really give us as reviewers a lot of like, what are you going to talk about? So if you really put thought into, okay, this is what I experienced myself, this is what I want to get across to the audience, but I'll let the others step in too. I don't want to take everything. So
I think it's all, it's a sales pitch, I think is the bottom line, isn't it? Is convince the committee that this is a relevant topic, that this is interesting, that you're passionate about it, and why you should be. Obviously, there are limited spots on each track, and there are always many more abstract. So it's really, you've got to sell yourself to and earn that place.
And to me, it's also used by the committee to schedule your session, make sure it's in the right slot with other, that you're not competing with others, and then figuring out what you're going to be talking about. So it's very important to be clear and what you're going to be talking about. And like Jorge said, like, really be selling yourself. And I think being punchy also makes it easier for the selection team to just, oh, that's interesting, there's something in it, and picking it up. So
yeah, on one hand, you got to stick out. Gemma said there's on some conferences, let's focus on kscope, you'll be against hundreds of other abstracts, and you got to stand out. It's like people seeing a resume, right? If you send your curriculum, if the more boring it is, and if they're looking at 100, you're like, yeah, there's one more, okay. So something about that abstract has to stand out first. That's the first thing you got to get through, that you got to stand out so that you make it to the next phase.
Yeah, Jorge,
Yeah,
exactly.
I go ahead, Jackie.
No, I was gonna say, Jorge, like, I think before my first kscope, when I was submitting, he gave me that sales pitch and said, also, you need to submit a video. For kscope, we have a submission form, a place to add a video. And he said, if you're new and no one knows you, like, this is what all they're gonna see. They're not gonna Google you, and they're not gonna look you up. If you want them to see who you are and that you can actually speak, you need to put a video. It doesn't have to be a video of your presentation. It's just like, hey, I'm Jackie. This is me. And 30 seconds. And it really helps. I think people see who you are.
also,
When there's
like,
a new speaker and we have nothing to go on, that video is really helpful.
but
Yeah.
also,
I think the other thing as well with a video, I think whenever we go through the abstract, you've always got, say, from an Apex perspective, if you've had a new release of Apex out, there's always going to be a lot of, for example, I would expect to see lots on faceted search for the next one, lots on cards. There's always lots of stuff on the most recent features, which is obviously always of interest, but there will be a big pile of faceted search. Or a big pile that all fall into the same category, and we have to pick, say, one or two of those. So it's really stand out from the crowd. So video is a great way for that as well, I think.
and also get known before you do an abstract. Like, if you get out there on Slack, or on, just like if you have your own blog, or you share something on Twitter, that makes it much easier for us to see, like, who is this person, like, what is he doing. And if you already talked about it before you do the presentation, you give us a lot more confidence that it will be like you have real good knowledge and it comes across really well. And also for yourself as a presenter, it's really nice to test a few things. Like if you do a tweet and many people like this tweet, you know that this is probably a good topic to present on.
Okay, so we've kind of answered the general question of what is an abstract, and we're kind of touching on what makes a good or bad abstract. So all of you have been on the abstract review committee. What, like we've mentioned videos and like choosing a great topic and making an outline, but what makes an abstract appealing or really unappealing to you when you see it and you're reviewing it?
No effort. No effort is my big hate. You look at an abstract and someone's written one sentence or two sentences, and they put literally a minute and a half's effort into it, and they think that's going to earn themselves a place. That's probably my big pet peeve. And number two is, sorry, I'm just going to jump straight in. Number two is a 20-year-old technology. Okay, maybe you just worked on an XML project, but it's 2020. So if you're talking JSON, that's one thing. If it's XML, let's leave it in 2001. That's bring my two peeves.
Well, how about a spin on a 20-year-old technology?
Yeah.
The way you haven't done it before. Like classic reports. Anyway, move on. Karen.
Well, no, that's a very good example.
Oh, but you do a good spin on classic.
No, that's an excellent example. And for those of you that don't know Jorge and haven't seen him present, watch his presentation on classic reports and classic report templates. Because it is a spin on an Apex feature that's been there from day one, and people go, wow, I didn't know I could do that. Those kind of things are important. And when you write your abstract, it's a couple paragraphs. I think they limit the words even, so you have to be succinct. And so it's not, I'm going to talk about classic reports. I'm going to talk about report templates in classic reports. And I'm going to show several different examples of unique report templates and what you can do that you probably didn't know. Now you've intrigued the reviewers and you've intrigued attendees who are reading that abstract saying, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do neat stuff with classic reports. So it's a teaser for your audience. It's also telling the reviewers, it's not classic reports, this big, huge topic. He's going to narrow it down and talk about this niche that most people don't know about. And that makes it unique and appealing.
And I think that's where the blog thing comes in that Dimitri mentioned as well.
Yeah, and to me,
someone's demonstrated that niche.
A good abstract is also how many people is going to reach out to. So maybe it's an old technology, but if it makes sense and it reaches to a lot of people, then I might be more selecting this abstracts over something that's too niche or too expert or too, you don't have to be really high level and very technical. It needs to be reaching out to a lot of people or make sense or an interesting use case that you've been experimenting or, so to me, that's what makes a good abstract.
So to build on that, like if I'm in a very, maybe not an entry-level person, but I've been working with Apex or whatever technology for a few years, and I'm really good at the basic stuff, should I be afraid to submit an abstract on a beginner level topic if that's what I'm really good at?
No, definitely not. I think everyone's in favor of a beginner track, isn't it? So there's always a need of.
Right. Yeah, we're all on different journeys, right? And there's always somebody learning and starting with Apex for the first time. So so there's always a need for those basic technologies. But what you don't want to do is have, like somebody mentioned, a one-sentence description and say, you're not going to say dynamic actions is the title, and the sentence, I'm going to teach people about dynamic actions. That's a fail, right?
Doesn't tell us anything.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me if you know dynamic actions or not. I wanted to add one more thing that makes an abstract bad, spelling mistakes.
Mhm.
right? I think everyone's read an abstract. If I see big mistakes, something that a spell checker should have caught, it tells me you're not even putting an effort, right? So that's a big no-no on a abstract submission.
Does an
Of
abstract
course.
have to be a completely outlined presentation or just a little summary? Is there a better or worse way to do
I think
that?
enough information to have an outline to see, are you going to do demos, or what are you going to be talking about? What are the different topics? All does that to show that you've thought about it a bit, and then you have kind of an outline. But I wouldn't go too detailed, right? I think
Right. Just
you're at
so,
the
You
abstract
don't need
level.
to have written the presentation before you write the abstract.
No.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Just show the review team that two purposes. Show the review team that you know what you're going to talk about, that you have a plan, and that plan is executable within 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes people list like 20 things and we're like, whoa, you can't fit all that in an hour. And that's a question for us. Like, can they talk that fast? And the flip side is, and we've all seen it, 50 tips on such and such. And we're like, no way. And I think the guy actually did it, but that's an extreme case. You want to have something that's manageable. Always think smaller, because an hour goes really fast when you're standing up there at the podium and the guy in the front row asks an esoteric question and wastes 5 minutes. So we try and think small, succinct, focused, and organized.
Does it ever help any of you guys to have other people take a look at your abstract before you submit it, or do you generally do that yourself?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and especially as a foreign speaker, like I even run the spell checker, but like build with a T or with a D, I still make that mistake. And so, so yeah, it's important that other people, like if you have a friend, like if they look at it, it's good. If they understand what you're trying to do, that's the first thing. Then yeah, maybe just the form of the message would be nice. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially
I'll even do trust.
especially if you're a first-time speaker that you want to submit, I would definitely, I still do. Every time I submit abstracts, I go over with other people and look at it and then discuss it. And then, so yes, I think that's very important. Very, very important.
But I wanted to.
Oh,
Can I add one more thing on the previous thing?
yeah.
That it's also really important for us to understand where beginner, intermediate, advanced this topic fits. And without an outline, this is really hard.
So I also want to point out two things, that because we get there and then we don't talk about it. For kscope, and I think for a lot of conferences, we strive to include all levels of material. We're not, it's not a beginner conference. It's not just an advanced conference. We try and cover all levels because we know we have attendees for all levels. And so if you're new to Apex, your experiences learning this new feature are helpful because that could help the next person coming along behind you. So it's important in your abstract to say this session is targeted at people with under a year Apex experience, just starting out learning the ropes. That tells us, oh, okay, that's the perspective. The other thing is when you submit to kscope, and each conference does it a little bit differently, there's two regions, one for the abstract that the reviewers are going to see, and then there's another paragraph that goes in the conference materials that the attendees will see. And my pet peeve is when people copy and paste from one to the other, because the abstract that goes to the reviewers is your chance to sell yourself, sell your idea, get your abstract accepted. The one, and you can put more information in there Like I'm gonna do demos. I'm planning demos on X, Y, Z, and that should be about half of my presentation. And tailor that to whatever you need. In the more succinct paragraph that goes in the conference materials, you may word that differently, and you don't have to be as detailed in there. But when people just copy paste from one to the other, it tells me they didn't really think about this. They're not really trying super hard. They're not putting the effort in to tell us reviewers a little bit more that would make them stand out and make the difference.
I wanna tie to something that Francis mentioned. There is an aspect of being a teaser, and I think for the public that are gonna see that, you don't want to give all the information away. You want to make it a teaser, and there's things that they're gonna have to show up to find out. You don't do that with the reviewers.
Right.
You're not teasing the reviewers.
Yeah,
you want to be very clear that you know what you're gonna do, and you're gonna give more examples, and you want to maybe outline the type of examples or the type of material you're going to cover so that you demonstrate that you know the topic. Yeah.
Can I just touch back on the dry run thing? Because I think it's like, to me, it's a must on every presentation, both in terms of doing a dry run with your peers, and you can do it with several people, both in terms of content and in terms of timing. And like, for example, Jorge, I've known Jorge for a number of years. I have yet to see him present live, but I've seen every presentation he's done in person beforehand. Because it's great because it gives me 2 less things to go to at kscope, but I know all of
Gemma often gets the first time preview. Yeah, she often gets the first time rough draft of a presentation.
That privilege.
I've got a question, and I think I know the answer to this. It says, where is there a place people can find examples of past abstracts that were accepted that would help clarify things even further? We have, for kscope, we do still have our kscope 20 site up. We have our kscope 19 site up. You can go there and you can browse all the sessions that were accepted. And that is probably a great place to take a look at the abstracts.
Keep in mind, like we said, that is not going to show you the writing that the committee looked at. So whatever you see there, imagine a little more detail on what the reviewers looked at, right?
Yeah, what you see there is one of those paragraphs. That's the one that goes in the conference materials. You expand on that for the reviewers, so the reviewers know that you know what you're talking about. 2 different purposes: get attendees, a teaser to get people to your session, and tell the reviewers, this is what I'm going to talk about, this is how, these are the details, there's going to be a demo or not. And I was going to say flowers in the veil.
I kind of want to switch gears just a little bit. I think we've covered the contents of the abstract pretty well, but this year's been kind of special. I'll put special in air quotes with regard to everything. So are you guys still submitting abstracts with the uncertainty of the COVID situation going on? And if you're not, why? And what are there any reservations that you have about doing so?
Actually, I'm submitting more because I can do them virtually, so I don't have to travel. So when I know they're virtual, now I submit. So I actually do more. But for the others, like for kscope and others, to me, it's a no-brainer. So it's a conference that we have to go to. So virtual or not, I'm going to submit. So.
I think a benefit is that stage fright is going to be very different because you're not going to see those attendees' faces looking at you. So for those that are afraid of looking faces looking at you,
fantastic.
Yeah, exactly, Gemma. This is your chance to you just talk at a screen and put a big microphone in front of you, and that's it.
And actually, that's a good way to
there.
start. You were talking about people being afraid of speaking. I think that's a good way to start virtually. It's a bit less, like you're saying, Jorge, it's a bit less but then you can also have notes, and then close your camera and then and look at the different things and stuff. So it's
Yeah,
a
so
bit
there's
easier.
definitely an advantage there.
Yeah.
I think if you're, and I think that the other thing as well is if you're doing it virtually, and I think this also applies in person as well, that if you're scared about putting an abstract in for the first time, okay, there obviously are smaller conferences around and meetups and stuff, but going with a co-presenter if you're nervous, to build your confidence up. The same thing if you're doing it virtually, because then it's literally you're basically having a chat online. You have a little chat and you might look over and see how many people are on, but it's literally you haven't got a wall of faces staring at you. You're just having a chat online, and it's no big deal.
So I think for kscope specifically, when you're submitting an abstract, there's a little checkbox for if you want to be considered for virtual events. So that would include webinars or any other sort of virtual event that ODTUG puts on. They could consider your abstract for that. So be sure to check that box. If you are submitting to the in-person conference, you don't have to check anything special. But if you want to be virtual, check that box and you can for sure say, I'm virtual only, or I only want to do that.
And remember as well, you can always write an abstract, submit it to kscope. Okay, if a conference doesn't happen, you can always reuse that abstract, and if you have the presentation at another conference or whatever down the road.
Absolutely. When you're submitting abstracts for an event that you know is virtual, is there a difference in the abstract you would write, or anything that you would consider differently about the presentation, or anything different than an in-person event that you're submitting for?
I wouldn't. I don't think my process wouldn't be any different.
Mine's
and
not.
part of that, I should add that often you may do the presentation live, and then you get the opportunity to do webinars, reuse it. We put it takes a lot of time to prepare, to put a presentation together. And it's really a shame to do it one time to one group of people. So think about every time you're preparing a presentation that you'll want to do it multiple times.
Here's something I struggle with this year is I have 3 presentations right now that I've only done virtual. And I love these presentations, but I've done them virtual a lot. So do I submit them to kscope, or do I submit something? I want to do them live. It's that, and I laughed at myself because I'm like, you want a live audience? Like, but they're good presentations that would be neat in front of a live audience. But there's so many virtual conferences that I need to expand the topic or put a twist on it, or so I'm struggling with that for kscope, because we all try, and those of us that present a lot, we come up with new ideas every year. It's kind of like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. But yeah, so that I struggle with. Like, how many people have seen this since it's only been virtual, and is it still of value, or and our world it will likely be more virtual in the coming years, not just getting us through COVID times. I think even when we go back to live conferences, which hopefully we can do this year, hopefully we can do this in Nashville, there's still going to be an audience that is now used to virtual that is going to stay virtual. And I don't change my presentation, be it live or virtual. It's an audience. I miss the interaction, but so I just tell my audience, I'm assuming A, B, and C, and that's my target. But
For me, it's
we
a
do
bit
need to consider
different
the
though,
content.
Karen. I find it a bit different from like the interaction is huge. It's a huge difference. And the way I present live is very different from online, because I like to challenge people and see reactions in the audience. But live, you cannot do that. You cannot really gauge the audience. And also like my VR presentation, for example, that wouldn't work as well online. So but you have different things, like you can do more demo, or you can say like, go to this URL, make it more interactive in a virtual way. So there are different ways of doing that.
So you guys mentioned that you want an audience. There's a subset of the population that does not want an audience. So what advice can you give to people that are like holding back from even submitting an abstract because they're afraid of those smiling faces in the audience? Like, is there some advice to get over that or anything?
Just do it. First of all those faces in the audience are not all smiling, but you get used to that. There's that one guy in the front row that, you know, like 2 minutes in, he's going to ask his question or her question that has only to do with him, may not even be on your topic, but he wants the answer. And you just learn to, great point. Let's talk after. And then you go right back in. And you learn that by watching other speakers, because there's one in every class, you know. But you know, I got pulled or nudged into this by other people saying, oh, we all do it, go. And I get terrified every time before I present. And I go, what the heck am I doing? Why do I do this? And then I get going, and it's like a yes at the end of it. And everyone out there knows something. If you're working in Apex and or working in whatever you work on, you've solved business problems for your organization, and you know that better than anybody else. If that's something that you feel is reusable or valuable to the rest of the community, then you're the expert, and that's your value to the Apex community. And all of us have been there, and we'd love to help you along.
Everybody had a first time.
Yes.
Right? So
I think if people are thinking,
if you were ever scared. After seeing you present, like, you guys are awesome. It's hard to even imagine that any of you were nervous.
Oh yeah. And things happen. I've had everything that can possibly happen during a presentation. There was one year my machine died, and Dimitri was in the audience and he said, oh, I have your presentation on a stick. So we plugged it into another computer and continued that way. And the Apex community is like that. They will help you. I've had demos go horribly bad, and that's a horrible feeling. And the way to, hopefully that never happens to anyone, but the way to overcome that is be 100% sure of your topic. In terms of, if it's a new Apex feature, make sure it's released and not pending release, because things change. And if your topic is planned on X, Y, and Z, and D, E, and F come out, that makes for really bad demos. Practice. Yeah, there's lots of things there, but I've had my computer screen break during a demo, during a presentation. I've had, yeah, and I've lived through all of those. And if I can live through them, you can. You know,
it's scary in the beginning, but the wonderful feeling afterwards is really nice.
It's incredible. And the Apex community, and I can't speak for other communities here. Well, I can speak for ODTUG in general. It's really community oriented. The Apex community in specifically, it's like one big family, and we want to learn. It's like, hey, are you seeing Dimitri's? Like, Dimitri's AR talk is really cool because it's interactive and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a break from the norm. But we like to see what each other are doing and help each other along. And particularly if we have a new person, we want to meet you, and we want to we like growing our community. It's a lot of fun. So.
There's another area of presentation, and that's the real life use case, or how did somebody implement something, and those are interesting. Not a lot of those sessions get accepted, and we don't have a lot of those, but if maybe in general you can talk about how you converted something to an Apex system, and how do you go about it, right? Maybe it was all done on paper, maybe it was a conversion from a old application written in Visual Basic, I don't know, whatever weird thing you want to do. But real live use cases are also another category you can do. I mean, if you think you don't have anything specific to teach or to share, even your experience going through something like that is valuable. That's another thing to consider.
Does that lead to open mic?
Does that what?
Experience? Does that lead to the idea of open mic? But again, for people that are apprehensive about presenting, okay, yes, you do have to get up in front of the entire Apex community at once. But you've got what, 7 minutes? Is it 8 minutes?
Five. You set up that perfectly.
5, is it?
Because it's coming up now in November, end of November and December, right? It's November 30 we start. So yeah, you'll get that chance to do that 5-minute presentation on showing something. Just a quick slides presentation.
And it's great. I think the one in person is great because it's a social thing, isn't it? You can drink beer before you present to get rid of any last.
You can still do that here.
Yeah, you can do that.
Virtual demo. The advantage of virtual is you can be drinking beer during your presentation, and we won't know.
I want to swing back really quick to Francis. I want to get your opinion on overcoming stage fright. If I'm not mistaken, you had a hard time when you first started out, which is
Well,
because I don't see any of it now.
well, maybe it doesn't show, but no, I think there's a lot of things that you can do to overcome that fear. It's like, first of all, there's a lot of resources that ODTUG and YCC are providing. So be prepared, like Karen says, practice. I think that's the biggest part. Is if you know your stuff, then you're going to remove that stress, right? But also, like I said, leverage all the tools that are given to you. If you're on person, for example, there's usually a speaker room. So go there and try things out. Make sure your audio and then your laptop, everything works. What I like to do is I go to the room before. So I go there either during lunchtime, I plug my things in, I get familiar with the environment, make sure that, everything's good. So just to remove some of the stress when you're going to be presenting, getting there in advance, or even virtually, I like to be there in advance, just make sure everything works, set up everything. So those are little things, but those are things that usually adds up to the stress and the fear of presenting. And after that, when you're comfortable, you know your stuff, then the rest is just like the first few minutes, but then after that, it goes well. So that's my tricks.
So do you, or anyone, do you practice before the conference? Do you go to Meetup or anything like that? I know for me, my test subjects are my local BFW Meetup group. Like Gemma said, you see Jorge's all the time. My poor Meetup friends see my crappy stuff before it gets polished. Like, does anyone else do that, or where do you do it? Is it?
I found it that there's no substitute for talking my presentation out loud when I'm practicing.
Yes.
I can do it alone,
Yes.
but if I'm only reading and imagine what I'm gonna say, I'm gonna fail. I found that there's no substitute for saying it out loud. And then you say it and you're like, I can't believe I just said that. That doesn't work, right? And there's just something about hearing those words that makes you realize you gotta change what you're saying, or you're not ready, right? You don't have that concept already hashed out. So even before I would do a practice like that, I think saying it out loud, there's no substitute for that.
This will sound silly. I lock myself in the office, or I close myself off in the office. I talk to my dogs, and they
Yeah.
I have very friendly, interactive dogs, and they're an audience. They have expressions. They don't care. They don't give me bad feedback. If I gave them cookies, I get better feedback. But it's that speaking out loud, and that gets, I check my tone of voice. I check the timing better by speaking out loud and transitioning from a slide to a demo. And is everything in that demo smooth? I make sure everything that can go wrong, and Jorge knows this, now I make sure everything that can go wrong in that demo has gone wrong, and I have screenshots of the full demo in case it goes wrong during the session. I can just switch to the screenshots, because that's happened too. And I learned this by practicing with Tally and Kaylee. And like I said, they don't care about the topic. They're a nice, friendly audience.
First time I presented, I presented to my kids, and they were like 3 and 4, and they're like, but I'm like, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna listen. And they're like, they just thought it was really funny, and they had questions, like why you use that color. They had interesting questions. But yeah, it's just it's important to do that mock presentation, mock up or fake dry run.
But also
and sometimes
know
you
your
got to do it multiple
audience.
times. What was that?
Also know your audience. Like at kscope, you have more developers. When you present at Oracle Open World, it's more manager or project managers or something like that. So that also like helps in a way.
I think the other thing that
Go ahead,
a tip that I was given by Jorge in terms of when you stand there in a room with a bunch of blank faces, in terms of getting the audience to interact with you, and I think this goes with the knowing your audience in terms of asking questions in terms of, well, who's been working with Apex for less than a year, who's running Apex 20.2, who's running Apex 19.2, just A, to get the interaction, and B, to get more background on your audience.
Are there other interesting ways to engage them besides asking like who has this much experience? Like what are some other methods to engage people?
Dimitri's really good at that.
Chair, so they give you a good review.
Like I would just laugh with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm from Belgium. I don't speak English. Like, oh,
Right.
no, but like yeah, I don't know. Like be you. I would say that, like, be you,
yes.
and that's the best way you can be authentic. Like you cannot but also what I want to say is, like, there are many cultural differences. So like if you present in the US or you present in Belgium or you present in like China, I guess like it's all different and the interaction is different. And you as a person, like you can adapt a bit, but like some will interact more, some will shout out more. In the Netherlands, they will just say things. So just know that it's not offensive meant or like meant offensive. And then people in the audience, they will do the same with you. Like I come from Belgium, I might speak different than like you.
All right, so talking about the audience, so Karen kind of mentioned this before, you have a know-it-all in the audience that wants to ask a bunch of questions. What are the best tips for dealing with that situation? Because I know when I first started, like I was either afraid that someone was going to hog like the front row and ask questions, or worst of all, I wouldn't know the answers to those questions, which was my main fear. So how do you get over that or deal with it?
First of all, you're not gonna know everything. You just have to admit that and start with that knowledge. You're not gonna know it all. You're not expected to. and
You're human.
it's okay. And that means it's also okay if you get a question you can't answer to say, I don't know, it's acceptable. Or if you think you can find out, then commit to saying, I'm going to look into that and get back to you. Give me your information at the end. You could do that.
That's the best trick, to get back to you. If you don't know the answer, don't try to answer something you don't know or debug
Oh, yeah.
live or try stuff out. I mean, that's the worst part, because then you're going to be in a position where you then where that's when the stress kicks in. So
Exactly.
I think try to answer the best you can. If you did practice, you should know your stuff and you should be able to answer most of the questions. And the ones that are very weird or you don't know, there's, the usual trick of, I don't know, but I'll get back to you on this, and let's take this offline or something like that.
Yes.
But also
Let's take
sometimes
this
there's somebody
offline.
in the audience who can help.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just
I've
have to
done
be
that.
careful with that. You just have to be careful with that, right? Because somebody can
Right.
take the time answering, but you just have to judge, is this going to be a long answer or not? You may not want to open that door. Just be careful with that, depending on how your timing is going.
Right. Sometimes that person, you'll give them an answer and then they ask that they think now I've got the floor. And because of timing, not because you don't want to answer their question, you have to derail them and say, let's take that offline. I want to get through this now, and then we can address that question later. See me after this session. We have lunch. I'll sit down and I'll show you. We'll run through it. And you just keep going. You don't give them a chance to say no. You just take back control and go back into your flow.
Yeah.
So do you have any best presentation advice, or either with abstracts? We're getting close to the end here. So I want to get like maybe a sum up, like what's your best advice you can give someone about either submitting an abstract, giving a presentation, anything we've talked about today? Like what is your number one thing people should take away from today about abstracts and presenting? Anyone?
You should point out at people, Jackie. Go through each one. Everybody
You want me to
says.
go through? Okay, you're first, Jorge.
All right.
You are for that.
For the abstract, ask someone for feedback. I've even used my wife is a nurse, and she couldn't understand a thing I'm talking about when it comes to the Apex, but I will run the abstract by her because if she can, she'll point out things that make no sense. She's like, your English is all flawed there. That's not how we write in English. That whatever the feedback is, it's valuable. So ask somebody else to review.
Gemma, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, one thing.
Take your time with your abstract. Think about it, put care into it, don't leave it till the last minute, till the day before the submission date. Think about it, start on it as soon as you possibly can, and don't underestimate how long it's going to take you to actually do the presentation and put slides together. Because it's until you come to do it, you don't realize that it is a big job you're undertaking.
Dimitri?
Yeah, like I have the same. Number one is spend time on every level, the abstract, the presentation, the preparation, and put your heart in it. I find that important.
Karen?
Again, time on the abstract, be really clear and focused in this is what I'm going to talk about, and practice. It's going to take more time than you think it is, but you're going to learn more than you thought you knew, and you are the expert in your presentation, so be ready to invest the time and be that expert.
Francis?
I would say as soon as your abstract is accepted, start working on it. Don't wait last minute. I think that's, for me at least, just to go over it, practice, prepare. That's, and if you're really want to just try it out, co-present, I think that's a good idea just to start up. That's how I started with somebody else. So it helps a lot. Just co-present, I think. Be yourself also. That's a good advice. Just
Really
be yourself.
huge.
Don't try to be that top presenter. Just be yourself.
My advice is pretty simple, I think. If you're nervous or apprehensive about even submitting an abstract, just do it. Like, if you don't do it, you can't ever get to the next step. You can't get to presenting. I am terrified of presenting. Submitting an abstract does not terrify me, but I'll deal with the fear of the presentation when it gets there. So do one step at a time, do the abstract. If you make it or don't make it, you'll at least get feedback and you can try again. Nobody's going to broadcast that you didn't make it. No one, you know, it's not public knowledge. Try again the next time if it doesn't make it, and work through the presentation and take it one step at a time, and you can definitely do it. No level is too low or too high. You just have to spend time and know what you're talking about. And with that, I want to see if Veronica, if we have any audience questions or if anyone has any questions.
We do have a question for Gemma. It was regarding the first time you presented. They wanted to know what made it the worst experience of your life.
I think it was, I looked out and there was a sea of faces that were totally expressionless. And I didn't know the skill about interacting with the audience and getting them involved. So I was literally talking to this sea of faces, and I was talking and I was talking and I went through slides and I went through a demo, and it was just expressionless. And you're like, is this going down like a lead balloon, or are people loving this? I have no idea whatsoever. That was the thing that just made it 45 minutes of hell, I would say. But then I then saw the feedback from it, and you see how you then see the positivity, and you go, oh well, it can't have been that bad. And then you do a few more of them, and you see the same, and it gets easier and easier each time. So yeah, that to me was the main thing, just that sea of blank faces. And I think I cracked a joke which went down like a lead balloon as well. That also didn't help. So
You didn't know your audience. It was a.
I didn't know my audience. No,
It was a very British joke, maybe. Not
everybody.
everybody.
Yes, it flew overhead. It was lost. Yep.
Thank you, Gemma. We just had comments. This is great advice. Everyone, thank you. And also that the person in the audience is a big fan of all of yours.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
No, and just as while we're waiting for any other questions, kscope abstract submission deadline is November 17th. So all of you on this call, and presenters included, if you haven't submitted anything, please do. And then, as we kind of talked about, we are having the open mic night for charity. So it is for a good cause. It's not just for fun. People are going to bid on presentations to go next, or so, and they're not really presentations. They're like fun little demos or something just, it's lighthearted, right? This isn't a serious thing. It can be absolutely anything in your subject matter area, just barely involved in the subject matter area in any way. I know with Apex, we use Apex to show a lot of other things that have nothing to do with Apex, but it's a good time. So please register for that and donate if you can. It's for a good cause.
And register and watch. We usually get neat. It's when we get to see who's doing what with Apex, and people are doing really neat things. I didn't think of that. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, yet another interactive report. Okay, but then they did this, you know. So it's we get to learn from you, but it's a good confidence.
Last minute tip from Gemma: always plug in your laptop. First your time.
See,
So that's
a good
that's
point.
actually a really good tip. Make sure
Yeah.
you're plugged in when you're presenting.
Yes. Make sure you have enough juice.
Oh, thanks, Emma. We just
Yeah.
I just
There you go.
shared your tip.
Yeah, I just learned something. Plug your laptop in before you present.
You might get away with it. You can just live on the edge. It might
I was
last.
just watching the
12
percentage going down, thinking, am I going to squeak this in or not?
hours. As you can tell by listening to us, we've all had the fears and the weirdness happen, and you just roll with it.
My heart rate gets elevated a lot. Sometimes when I'm presenting, my Apple Watch now lets me know. Like, looks like you're not moving, but your heart rate is elevated. It is. It's just making
Please
sure
don't
that I'm
be
okay.
sharp.
It's hilarious.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you,
'cause
everyone.
I think
You got more shout outs from big fans and followers of you guys on Twitter, and they really appreciated this session.
Great. I hope to see you all at kscope, live or virtual or hybrid or whatever we can do by then. And stay safe until then, so we can get back to conferences somewhere in the world.
All right.
I know for a fact you can do things in Hawaii right now, but that may change. kscope Hawaii 2020, 2030, maybe. I'll be gone by then.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, all.
thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.